Always a pleasure to be joined by James Nichols from New Jersey Hockey Now, talking about a Devils team that is tied for the league lead with 9 wins on the season. And there is a big game tonight as they'll face off against the Montreal Canadiens, who are also right up there with them. But let's start, I guess, at the top of this Devils lineup. I think it's a good place to begin our conversation. 10 goals on the season for Jack Hughes, 9 of them at even strength. Are we in the first month of what could be an MVP caliber season for Hughes?
Well, he and the Devils are certainly hoping so. He's looked really good, really strong through the first 13 games. And I think he's out to prove to everyone, obviously the injuries over the past couple of seasons have been the narrative around him. And, there were questions coming in whether he could be the same player or not due to those injuries. But, he's come in looking better than ever. And, there was a lot of talk about how this surgery would make him stronger and better than ever. So far, so good. He's obviously the motor that makes the Devils, engine rev, and so far it's been obviously a benefit for them.
When we were able to watch the Devils live this year, Ty and I, just Jack Hughes' his speed, his availability. But what I really noticed was their back end, like a healthy Dougie Hamilton, what Brendan Dillon has done there, the youngster Nemec. What can you say about their back end, just securing, like making it easier for their 2 veteran goalies?
Yeah, it's funny because this morning, Sheldon Keefe was actually a little bit honest about how they've been not so great over the past couple of games. The road trip was tough, 1-3 record there, but they're dealing with a couple injuries. Obviously, Brett Pesce's a huge loss, but overall, the structure that Brad Shaw has instilled this season has benefited them greatly. I mean, you mentioned Brendan Dillon playing probably some of the best hockey I've seen him play in the past couple of years. Dougie Hamilton looks real strong. That's a positive development because there have been questions about his defensive game in the past. Nemitz is a mixed bag, but overall the structure here, I mean, a lot of what they're doing is cutting off the opposition at the neutral zone and not even letting them get into the offensive zone to cycle the puck and to set up for some offense. And They curate a lot of that defense into offense and send the puck the other way. They're a strong team on the rush, and they use that speed and skill to their advantage. And you'll see guys like Jack Hughes score on the rush, or Jesper Bratt connecting for a really really nice highlight reel goal like they did against the I believe it was the Colorado Avalanche, the tic-tac-toe play there. So the defense is really what's been the catalyst for them this season when they're going well. It certainly makes life easier on Jake Allen and Jacob Markstrom, both of who are 35 years old and only getting a little bit older here, right? But that's what they're banking on with these 2 goaltenders. They have Jake Allen for the next 5 years. They have obviously Jacob Markstrom just signed a 2-year extension. They want to make life easier on them so that these older goaltenders don't have to have such a strong workload night in and night out. On the other side of the coin, you do see a night like a few nights ago when Jacob Markstrom had that 41 save night where he just stole a game. But they're trying to limit how many times they allow 30 plus shots over the course of the season, and it's been pretty strong so far.
For them and this platoon of goalies, right? Because you have 2 older goalies, right? Jake Allen obviously held the fort down when Markstrom was out. He was very good, and he always has been. He kind of, like you said, Markstrom has that 41 performance. I think that's his high side, right? He can steal you games and be a difference maker. But what is the plan, as they're both a little bit older? Is it to kind of go back and forth and try to manage that depth? Because Jake Allen did a great job when he was with the Canadiens, getting them to the playoffs when Price was out as well. So he's been in that role. But how do you platoon these guys to make sure they're healthy come playoff time?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a 60-40 split there. The Devils are still a believer in Jacob Markstrom being the number 1 guy, and obviously they paid him to be like that. And the thing is they brought him in because they think he's the difference maker. Jake Allen, in my opinion, is a luxury as a backup goaltender. You could maybe even call him the 1B, depending on how they do deploy him. But it does look like it's going to be a 60-40. They're going to give Jacob Markstrom the toughest matchups, but it's again a luxury to have Allen in their back pocket. Let's say if God forbid another injury to Markstrom happens, they have a goaltender any given night that can give them a win, steal a game for them. So it looks like it's going to be Markstrom's, and that's what they've said. It's Markstrom's net moving forward, not in the sense that he's going to take 60 games, but you might see him take 50 as opposed to Allen taking the rest.
Looking ahead now, and I mean, Tom Fitzgerald, I think the expectation would be at some point he probably gets pretty aggressive. And a lot of outsiders kind of look at the group of defensemen: Hamilton, Hughes, Pesci, Dillon, Kovacevic is hurt, Siegenthaler, and then Seamus Casey, Simon Nemec. Like, there's a lot of D-men here. And I think the general feeling, again, outside of New Jersey as well, something's got to give eventually. And one of those guys has got to go. Do you get the sense that that's the same feeling in the organization, or are they totally fine holding on to all these defensemen for as long as they want to?
Yeah, I think they're okay holding on to them, but I would anticipate that they do make a big move at some point this season with the anticipation of not just making the playoffs, but making some noise there and making a deeper run than they have before. I think they've been hoarding these assets for something. I don't know what that is, what it looks like right now, but they're going to certainly need something as the deadline approaches and gets closer. And it might be by need, as we get there. It's obviously, like you said, a deep blue line. I do have my questions about the depth there just because after the top six, when they're fully healthy, you have the same kind of NHL ready defenseman and offensive defender who maybe might not be needed when it comes, to an injury like you're seeing right now with Brett Pesci. I think they're actually struggling a little bit to find somebody with the defensive repertoire who can come in and at least hold his own with Brett Pesci out. I think that's hurt them a little bit. So you do wonder, or I do wonder, if there's going to be maybe some sort of defensive acquisition along the way, despite the depth there. But you also look at, a forward group who is, yes, this is a deeper forward group than I've seen, in my last 5 seasons with this team. But they severely lack, a first line winger next to Jack Hughes. I mean, Andre Palat, 13 games into the season, has 1 point. And we talk a lot about the little things that he does right. But, not having the finishing ability when Jack Hughes makes an incredible play or Jesper Bratt makes an incredible play is hampering that line a little bit. And then, in terms of the center depth, after a guy like Cody Glass, who, goes down with injury, he's returning tonight. But when he does go down, the center depth thins out real quickly. Juho Lammikko, he's a bit of a wild card. We still don't really know what we have in him. They do move Dawson Mercer from the wing to the center, back to the wing, but they like him better as a winger in the top 6, namely next to Nico Hischier. So you wonder if there's a center depth acquisition to be had there as well. Lastly, a lot of the conversation is around team toughness. How tough are the Devils? How tough can they be? Can they hang in tight with a team like the Florida Panthers when they make it to the Stanley Cup playoffs, right? I look at a guy, and this is just pure speculation, but I look at a guy who just played his 1,000th NHL game last night, and at Nazem Kadri, and I wonder, is that a guy who, with the rising cap at $7 million, and is he a guy that they could absorb and really put this team over the top here? You can elevate him if you need and put him at center, move Jack Hughes over to the wing, or you can keep him at third line center and, have that center depth with a little bit more elbow grease in your lineup.
One last one for me. Just, do you think there's a little more priority from Tom Fitzgerald and the Devils to prioritize right now because the Metro is just a little bit of a weaker division, right? It seems like the Carolina Hurricanes are the team that are going to go straight up. It almost feels like the first round feels like there's a quick path to the Eastern Conference Final if you can succeed in the Metro.
Yeah, this division's wide open. It's there for the taking. Obviously, the hurdle for the Devils has always been the Hurricanes. They really need to overcome that, and it didn't start well this season on night 1 when they just got decimated by the Hurricanes. They got caved in, but right after that, you saw them bounce back real strong, and you want to see them be able to do that against their division rival. But after the Hurricanes and the Devils, I mean, there's a lot of question marks, right? The Penguins, can they sustain this? The Capitals are dealing with some injuries. Obviously, Pierre-Luc Dubois is not healthy. The Flyers, the Islanders are all rebuilding teams. The Jackets aren't doing as well as they would have liked to. And then there's the Rangers, who there's a ton of question marks. They can't win a game at home. So you would think that they would prioritize, getting home ice for the Stanley Cup playoffs, being able to play at home more often than they play on the road, and gathering those wins early so that they don't have to play from behind in a series. So this is certainly an interesting time for the Devils, where they're on the up and up. And they have some lineup. I don't want to call them holes, but they have weaknesses in their lineup that they could certainly strengthen just to ensure that they'll be able to go toe to toe with a team like the Hurricanes, so long as they, stay to their structure, because how structured the Rod Brindamore led Hurricanes can be.
You can find his work at New Jersey Hockey Now. James, appreciate you popping on, and I think we'll be talking a little bit throughout the season as the Devils will likely stay competitive.
Yeah, I think we will. Thanks for having me. I'll see you guys soon.
Hey, hockey fans, if you enjoyed that video, then make sure you hit the subscribe button right here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube. We have you covered for everything you need. Exclusive interviews on The Sheet with Jeff Merrick, all the latest hockey news on Daily Faceoff Live, and you can always get your morning started with Johnny Lazarus and Colby Cohn on Morning Cup of Hockey. Don't miss a minute. Hit that subscribe button.